Hi, welcome to Cooking Made Simple with Chef Kelly. I'm Chef Kelly. So today we're going to celebrate springtime, right? Spring is right here, right now. Easter's around the corner. Some beautiful weather, some beautiful colors. I even wore a yellow shirt for you today. So what we're going to do is we're going to do some lamb. I want to talk about a little bit of some simple techniques and the differences between different brands of lamb, different styles, different cuts. So I think we have a lot to learn today and a lot of great stuff, very simple. But again, we're going to celebrate lamb and springtime together. Right here, you see these beautiful cuts of lamb that I have here. I actually have two pieces of lamb. I got a rack of lamb, this one right here with the bones, right? And I have these lamb loin chops, as they're called, okay? So, little thing about the lamb loin chop, it's a portion of this lamb here, right? The loin is this muscle right here. And if you look here on the chop, it's the same. We got a lot of great markets, a lot of great cultural stores here in Revere. And I love that because if I want something specific, you know, Mediterranean or Middle Eastern, there's a great market for that. Of course, there's Italian heritage in the area as well. I've got great Spanish stores as well. So there's a bunch of great stores that if you want a specific flavor profile, you just go to them, and we're blessed to have that here in our own little city. You can cut them separate and have 4 racks. Maybe this is what you get at a high-end restaurant, a rack of lamb like that. They give you a 4 rack, 4 bones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you get 4 bones, right? All racks are the same. You can cut them individually. But in a restaurant, you may get them separate like this. Now, for our purposes, I want to cook it whole because I want to have that dramatic feel to it, that look. And then we'll cut them afterwards, okay? So it's going to take a little time for us to roast this. Now, this doesn't take long because it's kind of small if you look at it. Now, these come like this already. This is called Frenched. But if you want a deep Frenched, you would clean them off the bone here, right? You scrape the bone. That's a lot of work, and it's not really necessary. Also, the other thing you may get in a restaurant, they may clean this fat layer, which is fine to take this fat layer off. I don't mind taking some of it off because I don't want it too fatty. But we want some of that fat layer because that's what makes the lamb so good, right? The fat renders into the meat. And we're going to drizzle some oil on it, and then we're going to season it. And I want to talk about this great seasoning that I got at the local market here, one of the Middle Eastern markets we have. It's called Zaydar. I might have used it before. I think I mentioned it before. We talked about it before. And it's a great mixture of sumac, sesame seeds. Sometimes there's coriander in it. Sometimes people put cumin in it. We're going to sprinkle this. So there's coriander in 2 ways. There's coriander seed and ground coriander. Like I said, and there's different variations of this recipe. When you season it with salt and pepper, the seasoning's on the outside. So when you cut it later on, there's no seasoning on the inside. So you kind of over season it a little bit on the outside. So when you get a bite, it kind of gets all around your mouth. If you just season the outside just enough and you kind of cut into it and eat it, the muscle inside is not seasoned. We want to wrap these bones. Why do we want to wrap the bone? Okay? Because we're going to protect it from burning. So the aluminum foil helps protect it from that. Remember that skin I was showing you before that I was starting to scrape off? That will burn and it'll look yucky. You don't want that. I don't know if you can hear that, but as soon as I put it in, it started to sizzle. That means the pan's hot enough. It's not quite, it should be sizzling a little higher. So what I'm looking to do right now is render a little bit of that fat off, but more importantly, get a caramelization. We've talked about this before, caramelization. The natural sugars in the blood caramelize, right? Just like caramel. There's 3 basic fundamentals of lamb. There's New Zealand, Australian, and domestic. New Zealand is a good quality lamb. It's very light in flavor. They're usually smaller bones, smaller eye. The eye is where the loin, as we talked about, the sirloin is. It's a smaller eye. We got the Australian lamb, which we're using now. Medium flavored, medium eye, a little more reasonable in terms of a price point. Then, of course, there's domestics. Now, domestics are the king. Yes, domestics is really good. meat in the U.S. is is the best in the world. Domestic lamb is the highest quality. Okay, so you get this great lamb. The eyes are usually big. The prices are usually a lot more. The same rack of lamb could be $35 to $40 a pound just for that. All right, look at that. We got some great sear going on here. Sear this little side. The spices are searing up too, so they're a little deeper in flavor. And you can't really tell, but the oil's coming out. Not only, I didn't put a lot of oil, if you notice that. That's the fat rendering from the. So we have our spices. We have this great seared lamb. I have this nice oil with these spices that are roasting on it. We're going to put that right on top. We're going to roast this guy in the oven. Very simple. Now, you heard me talk about rosemary before. Rosemary is one of those herbs that I really believe should be cooked. It should never be kind of put in raw. So right now we got salt and pepper, olive oil, and rosemary. Now when you're grilling this, you want a good amount of heat to keep it from sticking, but you want space in between. You don't really want them touching so they don't steam. So I got some beautiful radishes right now, okay? And I got some really great heirloom organic carrots with the green tops. I love these, right? This is really simple. We're not going to overdo this one. This is really simple. You saw me roast radishes before, so we'll talk about that in 1 second. The carrots, I did a light cleaning. I didn't really peel them. I just did a light cleaning with a little scrubby, green scrubby, so I got inside there. I like that rusticness to it. You just split this here. Very simple cooking, clean cooking, beautiful stuff that you get at the farm. Cut them like this. Now we got some radishes. I love roasted radishes. They soften up. They have a great texture. So we'll take a little bit of cumin and we'll just sprinkle them on here. And we'll have to overdo it. All right. Now I got that little sugar. I'm going to put a little pinch of the sugar on top of the carrots. Just a pinch. And the reason why I'm doing this that little bit, because that pulls out that sweetness on the carrots. Just a little bit goes a long way. Carrots in the oven, along with the radishes, right? We did the lamb. We seasoned it with some za'atar, right? Oil, salt, pepper. Seared it, put it in the oven. We're going to let that cook to about 125 degrees, 130, give or take. Let it rest a little bit. By the way, we wrapped it, the bones with the foil to protect it. And that's it. One of the last pieces to the puzzle today of this whole thing is making this little relish that I call it a relish, right? We got some olives here. You leave them whole if you want. You can cut them, whatever you want, okay? I like to cut them a little bit so they don't roll around so much. And then, so it's this little relish, and I'm going to use some beautiful Meyer lemons right now. Some Meyer lemons, right now they're in season. I'm getting them really good. If you want to kind of funk it up and do something like blood oranges, go for it. They're all in season right now. Citrus is eating really well right now. Some beautiful stuff out there. Some sumo oranges. So we got some yellow peppers, put green peppers, red peppers, whatever you want, right? So we're going to take some tomatoes. Again, I'm going to cut these tomatoes. Put this guy aside so you can see what I'm doing. Also, when you cut the tomatoes in particular, some of that natural juice comes out, right? And then it kind of lends itself in making its own little sauce, if you will, a dressing, okay? So this is this really simple, it's a nice simple relish on top. Call it a relish, salsa, whatever you really want to call it. It's just fun, good stuff. Put that aside. Now we got some nice feta cheese here. So on the feta cheese, I like to cut them a little bit on the smaller side, and then we want to be careful when I mix it, because I don't want to break them up. I don't want to smush them. Okay. So you got your feta, your olives, your tomato, your peppers, right? And then we're going to add this juice right here. Get the seeds out. So I got some nice, beautiful, sweet Meyer lemons. Okay. Take that one out there. I think I got that seed in there. Good, perfect. A little bit of olive oil. Now, in this one, I would like to see maybe a little stronger olive oil, just giving more body to it, right? That's fine. You can do that if you like. Matter of fact, I will do that. I have a little bit of nice organic extra virgin olive oil right here. See the color I put in is a little better, a little deeper. So put that in there. That's the last of it anyway, so perfect. Now, I'm going to put a little mint for some nice contrast. So I got this nice chopped mint here from before. Again, all this stuff works with lamb. All this stuff works with everything. So this one here. Now the last piece of this, I'm mixing it first a little bit. I'm going to put a splash of red vinegar. You don't need a lot. And of course, we're going to put some salt and pepper. Now I know the feta cheese is a little salty, but you need a little salt to kind of pull the moisture out of the rest of everything here. So I'm doing this like this right now so it can sit. Okay? I want you to get creative. That's the beauty of it, right? The more stuff you have in the pantry and the more you learn about the craft, the tools that you're working with, the ingredients, the different variations you have, the more you learn, the better it's better for you. You can kind of get creative as you go along. And this sauce for this particular lamb, we're doing an English mint sauce. My mentor, a chef I worked with for a number of years, a good friend of mine, she taught me the sauce years and years ago. I never forgot it. It's so simple to make. You got some red wine vinegar, some sugar, some red wine. Okay, I got a Syrah here. You can use a Pinot Noir. You can use a Merlot if you want. It really doesn't matter, so as long as it's drinkable. Okay. Now, we're going to put the sugar in this pan here, and we're going to caramelize it. Okay. Now, the other thing about the sugar, to caramelize it, we're going to add some water to it. Now, we talked about caramel, right? Right? We talked about when you take sugar or the blood, like I said earlier, the sugar in the blood, when you let it caramelize, it gets brown and gets nuttier and richer in flavor. That's what. Okay, so we're going to take this little mint, put it off to the side, and we're going to use these mint later. All right, so simple as that. We'll put a pinch of salt in that too. Won't forget, you have a little salt. I want to show you what's happening here. We have the sugar water starting to boil out. Now, we didn't actually have to put a lot of water in it, or any water for that matter, but it's a little bit more controllable when you put the water in it, so the sugar starts to caramelize a little slower. So we want to be careful with putting too much water, because then you just got to cook it out longer. So we're letting this cook. It's boiling out. It's going to make caramel. And then, but you can't just cheat by just putting sugar inside these two liquids and boiling out. It has to be caramelized so you get that nuttiness to it. Okay? So we're letting this cook down a little bit. It's going to boil. Don't touch it. It's going to burn you. It's going to stick to you. Okay? Do you hear that? So what's happening right now is that the wine is cooler than the sugar, and it made candy. It got hard. But as the wine heats up, the sugar dissolves. So now you want to kind of make sure you move it around so the wine starts to warm up, heat up, and then the sugar dissolves into the wine, and then the alcohol cooks out. We add the vinegar. We put a pinch of salt. We infuse the flavors. We're done. So the hardest part about this whole thing is caramelizing the sugar. Okay? So look at that sugar, that little candy it made. Right? See how brown it is? Put this in here. You're going to let it dissolve. Okay? This is really a dip. Right? So we're waiting for this sugar here to dissolve. Okay, most of it's dissolved. It's a little spot right there. But I want to add my vinegar now. Alcohol's going to cook out anyway. There's my vinegar. I'm going to infuse this mint in here. I'm going to let this simmer for a little bit. There's my pinch of salt coming in. We're going to strain that little mint out. So you notice that it doesn't have that deep red wine anymore. It has a little brown to it. Why? Because of caramelized sugar, right? There's sugar in there. So that's a simple dip. Now let's take a look at our lambs here. Okay? Get these a little bit higher. Okay. So we're ready to take this lamb and put it in the oven. But I changed my mind, and I could do that. I'm the chef. It's my prerogative. In your house, in your kitchen, you're the chef, so you do what you want. I'm going to put a little bit of garlic on here. And so when I go in the oven, they have a nice little bit of a permeating of garlic flavor. Now remember, with one episode, we kept the skin on the onions on it. Same idea. Keep the skin on these. It kind of protects it. All right, so we're going to take the vegetables out of the oven. They're actually just about perfect. They're actually al dente, right? So we're going to leave these out right here. And now we're going to take our lamb and switch this lamb into the oven. Remember, our other lamb, the rack of lamb, is cooking. We had it about 110, 112 a little while ago, so it's not quite done. Now, it's important to let it rest. So we'll talk about that again when we come back. So this is just simple, nothing to do there, right? Now, maybe it's a little condiment tray. So this is just for show, right? You put some lemon on here, right? You put a little bit of rosemary, kind of this, like, make it kind of fun. Next thing I want to talk about is labneh, okay? This is great. This is yogurt on steroids. So it's Greek yogurt that's drier. And what happens is it becomes nice and light and fluffy. So Lebanese style yogurt, okay, has a more of a tang to it. And it works wonderful with the lamb. And the other thing about this one, what we're going to do is we're going to make a little bit of a dressing. We have our vinegar inside here. We'll put the oil. Okay, it's a little simple dressing. I want to put a pinch of sugar in this vinegar. The reason why I'm doing that is to cut down that little acidicness, right? Some salt and some pepper. And then you got the za'atar spice. So you made a nice little dressing, okay? Mix it up. And now what happens with this one is that the sumac gets activated from the vinegar, kind of pulls it out, and has a really wonderful tang to it. This wasn't originally on my menu, but when I came across them, I said, I gotta have them. I was looking for some baby turnips for today's class, but I decided that when I came across this, I gotta have them. So the dandelion greens, they're a weed. You grow them around your house. Yes, you could eat them theoretically, okay? So you get these nice dandelion greens. We're gonna put this on here. That's gonna give you part of your presentation, but it's also gonna be, not only is it gonna give you a garnish, but it gives you a functional garnish. That's important. I used to see chefs put things on the plate that were not edible or you wouldn't want to eat them. And I'm like, why? It's not a functional garnish. This is a functional garnish. So on the lamb, once we slice it and we put this dressing, we put the labneh on it, okay? This is gonna go great. We're gonna put the topping here. We got a lot of little things happening with this guy. So, but any one of them on their own would be great. The little chops are just about ready. We don't need to do much more to them. I wanna keep them nice and medium, right? They don't need much time. These are perfect, beautiful. So, and here's the beauty of this guy. This is what we're gonna do. You got this lamb ready to go. Simple, right? You got these nice, beautiful loin chops. Got some vegetables cooked in here. I got some on the side, right? We have the mint sauce, the mint dip, right on the side there, so people help themselves with a spoon. All right, so let's take this lamb out of the oven and let's see how it's doing. Okay, feels good there. It's giving a little bit. Let's see if we gained the additional cooking there. See how we're doing. Okay, this guy is perfect. We'll let him sit for a little bit. So we'll put this lamb here. We'll let it cool. And now, why let it rest? I'm going to take a rest. I'm going to come back in a few minutes when it's ready to cut, and we're going to finish it off. Welcome back. So the lamb is rested. He's ready to go. We're gonna cut this guy. We're gonna finish him off. And as we talked about resting, what does that mean? What happens is that the temperature is so hot and it's cooking it, and the blood is just cooking all out. If you start to get drawn out by the heat, if you cut into it, it bleeds out and it makes your meat drier. So what you want to do is you want it to be reabsorbed, really, essentially, and you get that nice redness in the middle. I used to notice at the fresh delis that I grew up with in New York, they would have these great roast beefs there. And you can see the ones that sat longer. I didn't know at the time early in my career when I first started understanding what it was. But they used to make fresh roast beefs. Go figure that. Right now they buy them already done. But they make these great fresh top round roast and red all around because you could tell it cooked, it sat, it reabsorbed it, it distributed it nice and neat, and it's red purely all the way through from top to bottom. Compared to others, they cooked it, they let it rest for a short amount of time. When they cut into it, it's just red more in the middle and it looks drier on the edges. So you'll notice that. If you ever come across something like that, you'll see the difference. Okay, so our lamb here is rested enough, and we're gonna cut this lamb into. You got a natural divide, so nice and red over here, perfect. Okay, you're gonna cut right where these bones are. Now you can do a couple things. You can just do simple single chops like this. Or you can do a double chop. I'm going to do both just to show you the differences. Okay? So now, here's the beauty of it. Remember we talked about this labney, right? So I like this labney. You just kind of put these little dots on them. You can put a little bit on the lamb itself. It has this natural creaminess to it. Okay? Put this all around the plate, right on this, right on the dandelion greens. We're going to take this dressing that we made, right? We're going to drizzle on top, okay? Make sure you put a little bit on the labney. This dressing is doing two things. One is it's flavoring the lamb, but it's also dressing the dandelion greens. There's that little vinegar, okay? And now, finally, we got a nice little relish here of feta, peppers, tomato, right? Olives. And you just kind of sprinkle this all over the place. And this, again, this gives you that dressing that does the salad, right? And goes on top of the lamb. And you got this beautiful, very festive looking spring with great colors, yellow, red, right, green, spring lamb. Then we put a little labney on top of dandelion greens. We made a little bit of a light dressing, kind of the same stuff, a little vinegar, oil, and the spice blend. And we garnished it. So how simple is that? Beautiful dandelion greens, green, perfect for the springtime. Some beautiful lamb, Australian lamb. So I hope you enjoy this. I hope you really get to see everything we have here and appreciate it and really try it, right? Understand the simplicity of cooking the lamb. Happy spring and enjoy.